So it's an absolute pleasure, privilege, honor to be here sharing the stage with you. You're truly my idol. The first time I met you, I recognized your special qualities as a healer, as an influencer, as a motivator. You've played a wonderful role in the life, as a mentor for both of my daughters, for me personally, as a professional, as an individual. So I feel delighted that I have this opportunity to have this conversation with you. Let's jump right in. This book, it's a memoir, it's an autobiography, and it's about your life. Why did you choose to write this at this stage of your life?
Well, to be honest, I had the story within me because I went through it all these years. I carried this secret with me, the secret of the 10 days that shook my life and changed me forever. I had the secret with me and I carried it with me. It was a hurt, it was a confusion, it was a revelation, it was a total destruction of my psyche. So I held it close to me because I didn't want the world to know how much I had been hurt. And I think a lot of us do that and we carry this to our graves. But after all this time, and I'm crossed 70, that's 70, and I said, it's time I exercise myself. It's time I tell my story about those secret 10 days that shook my life and changed me forever. The 10 days of the greatest risk-taking I've ever taken in my life. And I said, why am I doing this? Am I doing this in a selfish reason of getting myself cleansed of all of this, exercised and throw it all away and the world would never know? No, I don't think so. I think over the years, as I've mentored younger people, mentored people my own age, and I felt that maybe something that I went through in my life becomes something to share with somebody else, without any fear, without any embarrassment, without any trepidation. But share it so that you'll say, listen, I went through this. And I went through whole experiences which you would consider, as you hear the readings, bizarre and weird, and it's not possible. About people from the dead coming up and talking to me of strange revelations. Is it real? Is it a mental health issue? Or what is it? But when I, as a mentor and a person of my age, share it with somebody else, I tell them. It's a way of telling them, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay you go through all of this. And if you don't share it, if you don't go out with it, if you don't take it out to people, you will not inspire confidence in somebody else. So this is my way of giving back to life. As whatever life hurt me, this is my way of gifting to life and to people.
So as I read through small snippets, the impact of certain people came across very strongly. Without me divulging too much, could you tell us about a few highlights of those days as you walked through the floods?
Yeah. See, thing is that I was going through a great confusion. I was a young man. I was going through a great confusion. And I said, nothing seems to work. I was very, very successful in my life, financially and in many, many ways. I had friends, lots of things were happening that were good things to me. But I was broken inside because my family was broken inside, because we were going through a lot of emotional turbulence. So then, what is success then? That all of that I had garnered and got early success wouldn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything. Suddenly, one day I got up, the day of the flood, and I said, okay, I'm going to start walking. Why walking? Because I remember my maths teacher, Miss Thomas, told me, if you're down and out, get up and walk. If you're sad, get up and walk. If things haven't worked out with you, get up and walk. Walking will change you. So I walked into the flood with rubber boots and with a raincoat, and I opened myself in trust to what was going to happen to me. And the most bizarre and interesting things happened to me because I was taking a risk with myself. Yeah, I met all sorts of people, and each encounter was a revelation, taught me something. And there was a time I was sitting and having tea one night in these 10 days, and two children fell into a manhole, and they drowned in the manhole. Yeah, and I was a part of those who helped in bringing them out. So for me, that signified my drowned childhood. And suddenly, I didn't see death anymore. I saw drowned opportunities. And like that, there were many, many, many occasions. And each occasion gave me a feeling that it was there for a reason. So when you take a risk in life, when you're going out there, things will happen if you trust yourself and you trust the mysteries of life. Yeah. Did I answer your question? I'm sorry, I got carried
Absolutely.
away.
No, and I'm very excited to take that thread forward. But before we take that thread forward, I'm a clinical psychologist, right? And whenever you say voices in your head, when you talk about, I met so many people, it almost sounds bizarre, I'm sorry to say, but it sounds like something that's just out of imagination. So how do you describe it in your own words? Were you hallucinating? Was it a mental health breakdown? Was it an experience that was meant to be? Was it a spiritual, like you said, just like an expunging of all your problems and all your built up, pent up emotions? What's your perspective on it? I'm very interested.
My perspective on it is that, that most of the time we live very guarded lives because we don't want to face ourselves. Because we cover up so many things about ourselves. We cover up so many possibilities within ourselves. Yeah? And we have labels and taboos. Yeah? You say, oh, you shouldn't hear voices in your head. What do you mean you're hearing voices? You're talking to yourself. There's something wrong. You're kind of losing it. Okay? Now, I had a voice at that time I talked to, which actually like my whatever alter ego or whatever, and I was discussing what decisions I took with that voice. Yeah. You get it? So when you ask me this question, there's several other occasions. I don't think I was hallucinating at all. Because I think even when you dream, it's a truth. Because we always associate truth and reality and the real with something that actually happens and it's provable. And I think every experience that you experience is true because it's a real experience, whether it's tangible or it's intangible. But society has a way of labeling, you see? And I valued that learning from there. And I mean, I don't of course have that voice anymore that I can talk to and take. I didn't have anyone to talk to give me advice. So it was not hallucinating. It was definitely greatly spiritual.
Very interesting.
Sorry, did I avoid your question?
Not at all. You embraced it beautifully, I must say. So my next question to you is, what message are you trying to convey, you think, to the readers of your book, to your family, to your loved ones? You've obviously put a very vocal message out there, and what do you think that message is? What is the purpose of your writing, if I may ask?
Of that particular book, right?
Of that particular
book. Yeah. So let's take it because the nearest is one's family. Let's take it as the family.
Yeah.
Now, nobody in my family, my mother had some clue, no one in my family knew what I was going through at that time. And when I ultimately walked out, they didn't understand it fully. So it appeared as if I was abandoning my family. It appeared as if I was running away. It appeared as if I was irresponsible. And I felt, and that stigma remained with me for a long time. And I felt, okay, mate, it's the time. Sorry?
How
How old? Well, I was in my late teens going into 20. Yeah? So I said, I was working at 17 to participate and support my family. Yeah? So anyway, so I said, listen, I must tell them that actually this is what I went through. Nobody knew that I had crossed the border and gone into Bangladesh and went as, to so-called fight for the liberation, which was a joke. I ended up shell-shocked and with dysentery. I kept on going out to try to help people. Then finally, I gave up. So with my family, they didn't know most of this was happening. Only my mom finally got to know. So the thing is, I needed to tell them what really happened. I was not going to take it to my grave because I think it's a truth they ought to know, because the family is the nearest and the dearest to you. To people, I felt that, I needed to say that, okay, this was my life. Okay, you may see me a very wise person right now, with gray hair and a gray beard and talking wisdom. But actually, here's where I came from. All lotuses come from the muck. I came from the muck. And I grew into a lotus, I believe, in my head. And whatever I have created is created from suffering. The purity and the beauty comes from suffering. And I said, this is what I've gone through, and you should know. I have 38 books out there. You look and you'll find this is where it came from. This big risk. I think all of us, when we're young, need to have the courage to take a risk. Because, we fall into a pattern of saying, okay, my mom wants me to do this, or my dad wants me to do this, or my girlfriend wants me to do that, and I will do what society wants me to do, and I become a clone. But now, take a risk and find out who you really are. You don't take a risk, you'll not find out who you are.
Very impactful, I must say. And I'm so glad both of my daughters are here. They're listening to this because I think it's very, very important. What do you think have been the biggest influences in your life?
Well, biggest influences, I'd say, in terms of people. Most of the people who have influenced me have been much, much older than me. My granddad, who was really much older, he was nearly 80 years older than me, because my father was the youngest of 12 children. Yeah? So I was very little and he was very old. He was a very dignified criminal lawyer. And he felt that he had a connection with me. So I was a little fellow, and we used to have long philosophical conversations. And he had an influence on me, to don't take anything at face value. My great aunt, of course, she wasn't great aunt. She was an aunt, but she was much older. She was a politician in Bihar. And she said that, okay, I'm going to make you a politician. But I said, I don't want to be a politician. But she insisted that she'd make me a politician. But before she could make me a politician, she was assassinated in Patna. Now, and there were many others, and all of them happened to be much older people. Relatives, friends, all my mentors were much older than me, and very, very ordinary, so-called ordinary strangers. People who, when I went wandering across the country for 2 years, when I was a young fellow, it was strangers who opened their doors to me. Strangers who showed me unimaginable generosity. I don't know, I'm going off the point?
Not at all.
Yeah.
So you talked about people who have been influences.
Yes.
Can you tell the audience about a few life experiences or, impactful experiences that have shaped you?
Yeah, I was 7 or 8 years old, and I used to live in the house of, just by chance actually, where Rabindranath Tagore wrote Gitanjali. And his house was up for rent, and our family rented it, and I was there. And I was scared of the house. I was a little fellow, and I didn't understand Tagore or anything. And I was really terrified of this house, because the day we arrived, there was the total lunar eclipse, and that completely freaked me out. And that set the stage for my relationship with that house. One day, and it was right on the banks of the river Hooghly, which went past. So one day, I went out in the evening with my elder brother for a walk, and he would have, at that time, he really didn't like me. You know, the elder and younger, there was a lot of problems there. And he told me, okay, you can go and walk ahead, walk ahead. It was dark. I walked ahead and I plunged into the swirling waters of the Hooghly, which were rising. He didn't mean to do it, but it happened. And I drowned. Okay? I was brought out, drowned. I had an out-of-body experience. I saw myself lying there. Then I was resuscitated. I was brought back. For me, that was the weirdest experience, and the experience that's really, really affected me, because it was like coming back again. And there were 4 other occasions in which I had near-death experiences, just by a hairbreadth. And each time I asked myself, am I alive? Is it all this a dream, or did I die when I was drowned? Did I die when a fan fell on my bed and it missed me by an inch? And I couldn't answer. So finally, I learned to live in the moment, learned to live with each experience as it came along. I learned to inhabit my own body and my own mind. Yeah.
Very, very interesting, and thank you for elaborating on all of these.
Not at all.
May I request you to talk a little bit about your relationship with your father?
With my father. Well, I had a very strange relationship with my dad. On the one hand, I really, really admired the fellow because he was brilliant. You know, like he used to say, I can sell sand to the Arabs. You know, he was such a brilliant man. But because of his brilliance, there was no connection with his emotions, in his relationships, in his responsibilities. And his mom died when he was 3 years old. So he never had any guidance, any support. And so I understood him, as small as I was, that this man is a genuine human being, and everything is stacked up against him and is not giving him the opportunity to be himself. And when he was himself, he was amazing. He taught me all about birds. He could look at a bird in flight and say, well, that is a gadwall duck. You know, that is this bird. That is this. And he told me so many folk tales and so much. Next minute, he'd be gone to drink. And so I had this image of this amazing hero. And then suddenly it was a wild animal. But I always blessed, through my life, I've always blessed the opportunity I got to have been his son. Because his finest moments, though they were few, were the most inspiring. And I think that's what we must hold to in life, you know, what is inspiring and not that what damns us. Yeah.
Thank you. Last couple of questions, because I understand we are limited for time. There are other events that are to take place after this. But my next question to you is, what do you think shaped you to be a healer today? You're clearly a healer. You have special abilities. I'm sure you're conscious and aware of that.
Yeah.
What made you who you are today?
Okay, I'll tell you, it may sound a little bizarre, but there's one part of my life probably nobody is aware of, and that was from quite a young age. I got inspired by and connected to, at that time I thought were just wise people of various traditional communities. You call them Adivasi or tribal communities. And later I discovered there were shamans. So for a long time, I was friends with 4 shamans. And they made me feel absolutely at home. In my own body, in my own skin, in my own mind, they made me feel at home. And I never once heard a criticism from their mouths. There was always, not an explanation, there was always a revelation coming from whatever experience I shared. And over a period of time, when I became a teacher, And I felt that when I walked into a class, I felt I had a responsibility. It may be weird that I'm saying this. I mean, you're correcting, exam papers, and you're doing this and you're doing that. But when I walked in, I didn't see children whose heads I was going to stuff knowledge and information, but living potentials, like orbs of energy. In the dark you go and there are orbs of energy. You look in the night when you walk through the forest, you see fireflies everywhere. They are orbs of energy. You look at the stars, it's an orb of energy. So when I saw my children, right from the first class I ever taught, that was 5C, I saw energy, so much of energy. And the more I interacted with them, the more I started feeling that there was something I had that I had to give the world, that I had to give people, children, young people, other teachers. And it went on. I was very shy of revealing it, because the thing is, you don't want to say it, you don't want to reveal it, because if you say it and reveal it, there's people will say, what's this guy up to? What's he talking through his hat? Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
So circling back to the book.
Yeah.
What is the message you wish that a reader will take from it? What's that common thread that you see that you're trying to pass on as a continuity to the reader from your life to theirs?
Yeah. 3 things. Number 1, don't be afraid to take a risk. Don't be afraid to walk the untrodden path. Don't be afraid of being alone. If you believe in whatever you're doing, in the direction you're taking, that's the path you should take, number 1. 2, the value of other human beings. I think human beings are very, very valuable, and sometimes you may not see their value, you may not feel their value, but they are valuable. And you can learn something in a little conversation with a Darwan. So you have to be open to people who you may not be very comfortable with. And last but not least, believe that you have come here on this planet, in this life, in this body, in this mind, for a reason. I may sound very bizarre, I may burst into tears suddenly in front of you, but I have a personal sense of destiny. Now, this sense of destiny has got nothing to do with fame and fortune and achieving anything. It's got to fulfilling something that you have come here to fulfill. That's what it is.
I really, really hope that the readers will take that message from the book. I think it's a beautiful, powerful, all-encompassing message for each and every one of us. If I may ask, did this book in any way heal you?
Oh, yes.
Writing it?
Yes, absolutely, it healed me. I was telling lies when I began the book. I was polishing it up and making it look really good. I was making myself look like a real Robin Hood almost, You steal from the rich and you give to the poor. And I said, what is this rubbish I'm writing? Did it really happen this way? No, it didn't happen that way. Then how did it happen? It happened this way, but this way is a very crude way. To have 2 girlfriends is not right. You're not supposed to have 2 girlfriends. But I had 2 girlfriends. And I had 2 different relationships with 2 different people. So is that right or is it wrong? So the more I took myself apart, the more I exercised myself, the more I healed myself. I think I accept the business of being a healer. But if anybody is a healer, they are also nurturing wounds of their own to heal. You read any of them, Jung and anybody, anywhere, that's the light. Unless you have a wound, you can't be a healer. You cannot be a healer. You don't understand. Yeah?
Absolutely. What would be some of your concluding remarks?
There's only one remark. Don't ever be afraid of yourself. Yeah, because most often we are afraid of ourselves and afraid of who we truly are. Don't be afraid of it. That is where your personal salvation lies, to accept yourself. Warts and all. Yeah.
As usual, you enthrall us with your way, with words. It's been fantastic having this opportunity to sit with you on this dais and ask you these very personal questions. I'm amazed at how you can just say the bare truth as it is, and I wish we could all learn to be like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I really look forward to reading the entire book. You've given me very small snippets
I just
of
gave
it.
you the clips that we are going to read today.
Yes. I'm really looking forward to it, and I can see it on everyone's expressions. They can't wait to read it either. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nishreen.